Thank you. Okay. Hello. Um, so do I just give it a minute for everyone to click in, or is everyone here that's going to be clicked in? Do we know? Okay, well, let's see. I see the
You can go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm going to get started then. So hello, I'm Ruth Spiro and I'm coming to you from Chicago. So it's a little late here, but I'm a night owl, so that's all good. Thank you so much for attending my session called Surprising STEM. I'm sitting here in my office. This is where I do most of my work. I am a children's book author, and I am going to start sharing my screen so that we can start the presentation. Okay, share and play. Okay, here we go. So today I'm going to talk to you about surprising ways to include STEM in your classroom or wherever else you are working with children. And so I'd like to start out with a question, sort of a rhetorical question, but how many of you have an unlimited budget for materials and supplies for STEM? I'm going to guess that there are not too many. And if there are, we might all want to know where you're working because that sounds lovely. And my second question is, what did you have for breakfast? Did your breakfast include oatmeal or eggs or yogurt or something that has a really awesome container that it came in? And then what did you do with that container when you were finished with the oatmeal, say? And then here's my third question. Do you have a library card? And if you do not, that is a task for this weekend. Go get a library card, because I am here to tell you that if you have an overflowing recycling bin and a library card, you have everything that you need for amazing STEM activities with your children and with your students, like this young lady who showed up at one of my events. She did wonders with an oatmeal canister and some popsicle or craft sticks and some masking tape. It was fabulous. So again, I'm Ruth Spiro. I'm a children's book author in Chicago. You may be familiar with some of my books. I go to conferences, I speak at a lot of schools and book festivals. And so these are some of my books that I've written. These are the board books. And there's also a grouping about the five senses. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is that we really wanted to be inclusive with these. So if you work with students who have any kind of sensory differences, like perhaps they use a hearing aid or a cochlear implant or wear glasses, they will see themselves in these books. They've been translated we're up to, I think, 12 languages around the world, which is really rewarding for me to see. I also write picture books, and one of them that we're going to be talking about today is made by Maxine, because she is the ultimate girl who loves to tinker and hack and do all kinds of STEMmy things. There's a second one about Maxine and her garden. And one of my newest books is the How to Explain Science series. And the first one just came out, and it's How to Explain Coding to a Grown-Up. And this new series came by request because a lot of the kids who were little when the board books came out really enjoyed them. And educators and parents were saying, hey, what's next? They're interested in learning more. And I also had some educators and librarians who were saying, I work with elementary students and the content is great, but I cannot bring a book about a baby into my first grade group, which obviously made sense. They don't really want to read books about babies. So we decided to start a big kid series. So this just came out in October, and then How to Explain Robotics to a Grown-Up is coming out this coming year. My brand new book that just came out is also STEM, and I'm using air quotes for that, related. It's called Love Grows, and it's about houseplants. And it's written in letter format, and there's information about different plants and things that grow. And Lucy Ruth Cummins did such an amazing job with the illustrations. So that's the newest one. And my background is, in addition to the fact that I worked in business, I have an MBA, I transitioned to doing some freelance writing. And these are some of the magazines that I wrote for. And one of my assignments for Family Fun magazine was to write an article about how parents could incorporate STEM activities at home through games or toys or websites, books, all of the above. And in my research, and this was quite a while ago, I discovered the maker movement, which this was way before there were even maker spaces and fab labs and all that. They were just starting to pop up, but a lot of people were just in garages and basements, and they were tinkering with things and having a lot of fun. We didn't have 3D printers in libraries, and we didn't have Ozobots and all of that. And still they were doing a lot of really cool and interesting things. And I had a chance to speak with a lot of these folks who were engaging in these activities. And I learned a lot about the mind of a person who considers themselves a maker, and why they do what they do and what they're hoping to accomplish. And through that, I drew a lot of connections about the educational benefits for children and what we could incorporate from this maker movement into the classroom and into STEM learning. So, through engaging in these STEM related activities like making and tinkering and building and engineering and all kinds of those, all those things, kids are learning to solve problems. They're working on their fine motor skills. They are working on their critical thinking and logic skills. And really, one of the great benefits is they're learning to collaborate and work in groups together. And one of the wonderful things about all of these maker activities is that a lot of things are just open source. And so people just share what they learn with others. And it's all about helping everybody else and making suggestions. And, oh, if this particular technique isn't working, maybe you can try this. And so what a wonderful thing for kids to learn from this modeled behavior. And so this is where I came up with my talk that I'm sharing with you today. And because I talked to so many people who were just saying, I would love to do these things with my kids, but I don't have the budget. I don't have squishy circuits, and I don't have a 3D printer, and I don't have all these, bells and whistles in these things. And I am here to say, you don't need any of those things. They're wonderful to have. And if you have them, go ahead and use them. But if you are still a little apprehensive about bringing STEM into your classroom or into your home, there are ways that you can do it where the children are still learning the same skills that they would be if they were using some of these technology toys. But it's a lot easier to enter into, and you won't have the same financial constraints. And so we're going to talk a little bit how STEM skills link to both literacy and creativity and how we can make that happen. So let's first start with literacy, which obviously is something I know a little bit about. So for example, here are some skills that while they're the foundations of STEM, we also see them in the books that we read. Sequencing, right? One thing comes after the next. Cause and effect, something that makes something else happen. Making predictions, and patterns and categories. So there are many more, but these are the ones that I'm going to focus on this evening. So for example, let's start with sequencing. One thing follows another. So this could pertain to routines at school and at home. And in STEM, we think about observing changes and life cycles, building structures, number order. And in reading and writing and literacy, there's a beginning and a middle and an end to all stories. And so we start to see the connection between these skills and these things that we can work on and introduce to children that are related to both literacy and STEM. So one of my books is Structural Engineering, Baby Loves Structural Engineering. And in it, here's two spreads. The foundation is at the bottom. It must support the house and everything inside. The walls go on the foundation and they must support the roof. The roof goes on top of the house. So here we see the sequence. And when you're building a house, you can't put the roof on until you have the walls, and you can't put up the walls until you have the foundation. So this is reinforcing the importance of sequences. And I'm sharing with you this book list that I found from Reading Rockets. And I like to share book lists that are a little bit older, because not everybody is going to have the newest and latest books. And you can certainly Google, brand new books, but I like to reference books that many classrooms will have and many people will be able to find in their libraries that are sort of oldies but goodies, and they've been around for a while. And then these are probably a little bit easier to access. And so this is where my recommendation to get a library card comes from, because if you don't have these books in your classroom or in your school or library or at home, a library card will most likely allow you to find them. So here's a book list. And I do think that I sent this in for the seminar in my handouts. And this is a link to some books that I would recommend, How a House is Built and Growing a Garden, that all will reinforce the concept of sequence. So moving on next to cause and effect, that is one event that's the result of another. And so in STEM, we can look at how a plant grows. We can look at melting and freezing when you apply heat or cold to a liquid, and force and motion. If we push a ball down a ramp, it's going to roll, and that's a cause and effect. And in literacy, we can also think about how there are consequences to a character's actions. One thing will happen as the result of an action. So in my book, Thermodynamics, which sounds very complicated, but you'll see that it isn't. The sun shines on baby. It makes baby feel warm. The sun shines on the tree. It helps the tree grow. Boom. That's cause and effect right there. And it's very simple, and it's in I like to incorporate these sensory images and feelings, because I think that it's also easier to understand when you have a sensory component. So when you go outside and you feel the sun shining on you, it makes you feel warm, and that's cause and effect. And then taking it a step further into how that works with plants and plant growth, the sun shines on the tree, and then that helps the tree grow as well. And then here's a brief list. I think most people will be familiar with if you give a mouse a cookie, and the day Jimmy's boa ate the wash, and Alexander and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. These are all great examples of books that demonstrate cause and effect. Next is making predictions. So what will happen next? And in STEM, we can think about estimation, hypothesis testing, measurement, and in reading and writing literacy, how will the character react to an event? And another great way to think about making predictions is page turns. So when you're reading a book, stop and ask, what do you think is going to happen next? And there's definitely certain books that are really great for that, where there's like a cliffhanger or, something that's going to happen on the next page, and making predictions is a great way to start talking about that. And again, here's another list of books that will help with making predictions. I love the Steve Jenkins books. What would you do with a tale like this? Or weather forecasting. And there's one on estimating at the top. Oh, Stuart Murphy. Oh, I know. Yeah, I didn't realize that was his book. So yeah, there's some fabulous books that you could use to give examples of making predictions. And then finally, I could go on for so long about this, but we don't have a lot of time together. I'm trying to patterns and categories. And that's really the way our brain processes brand new information, right? Like, where does this belong? Where does it fit in? And there's some great activities that you can do in the classroom that will definitely help children practice their sorting skills. And in STEM, we can sort things and put things into categories based on their physical properties, same or different, sizes, colors, shapes, all kinds of things. And in literacy, we talk about like planning and organizing and comparing and contrasting we can read 2 different books about gardening and talk about the differences between those. And within the books themselves, so for example, in coding, well, it's really all about things that are step by step, taking things one step at a time. So for the littlest ones, baby always follows the same steps to get from the rug to the toy box and back again. And you can see there's another page where they're numbered, but there's the 3 blue dots that go to the right. And then we take 3 steps forward and then 3. And this is something you could definitely do in the classroom or at home. You can put colored dots on the floor and map out patterns. And they can learn a brand new word called algorithm. And my feeling is that if they can learn the word diplodocus and dinosaurs and elephants, then they can learn words like algorithm and molecule. And it's really cute when you hear little ones say these words too. But this is all the foundations of STEM. And you can't actually sit down and start coding until you learn some of these things. And then in the follow-up, how to explain coding to a grown-up, we can take it a step further, and you can, instead of just the algorithm being something that you're doing in the home, you can draw a map of your neighborhood, or draw a map of your school or your library or your daycare, and say, okay, what is our algorithm for getting from our house to the park, or from our classroom to the front door? And you could actually draw out a map and you could count how many steps it takes. So for example, here, the algorithm could look like this: go out the front door and turn left. At the bus stop, turn left again. And so you're learning also directional language, which is helpful as well. But this is all, the benefit here is learning to think step by step and how one thing follows the next. And we don't need an Ozobot for this, and we don't need All of those robotic toys, we can just do it with our feet and with crayons and paper, and we can make it ourselves. And the benefits are just as great. And when you're getting that physical activity incorporated, then that's really a bonus as well. Oh, I had just made a little closer up version of this, but it's the same as what was on the previous page. Some grown-ups don't like to sit still for too long. Invite them to test out their algorithm with a visit to the park. Okay, and then here are some additional books that might help with that topic as well. Okay, so books that reinforce sequencing, cause and effect, making predictions, and patterns and categories are also supporting STEM. So we're reading books and we're using the flow, and we're using the patterns that are in the books themselves to learn some of the skills that will also benefit and be the foundations for STEM learning. Okay, so next is creativity, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. And I'm just checking on the time here. Oh my goodness. One of the things people tell me is I talk too quickly. So I hope that everyone is able to follow along. And okay, so I'm just going to skip past this. So I do have this handout, which I also think is in the materials that I sent in, 6 reasons to encourage making and tinkering. And so if you need any proof to show to your administrators why you want to start incorporating some of these things, here's some perfect reasons why there's benefits to making and tinkering with children. And there's even some quotes and some resources there. Okay, so I'm going to very quickly read Made by Maxine because I have a STEM activity that is related to it. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to take a book and create a STEM learning activity from it. So Made by Maxine. Oh, I can't see. Well, I'm going to read from my book because I can't see the top of okay. Meet Maxine. She likes making new things from old things. She deconstructs and reconstructs, unscrews and reglues. Maxine makes everything better, mostly. I'm sorry, I'm going to go very quickly through this because I want to make sure we have some time at the end to do our activity. Meet Milton. From the day Maxine spotted him in the pet shop window, she was hooked. His scales shimmered, his fins fluttered. Was he waving to her? Since he was a fish, it was hard to tell. Maxine fell in love with Milton. He was a special fish and deserved a better home than a boring glass bowl. If I can dream it, I can make it, she said. And then she did. First, she tinkered with some old toys and made a spectacular tank. Oops, cowabunga! Next, she repurposed a broken bike and made a pedal-powered fish feeder. Really delicious. For a final touch, Maxine repurposed some vegetables and made music. Being a fish, he was not much of a dancer, but Milton wiggled his fins to the beat, practicing his slick moves. One day at school, Miss McMiller made an exciting announcement. This week we'll have a class pet parade, she said. We'll meet on the playground after school and then march around the building. If you don't have a pet at home, you may borrow one from our classroom. I'll bring Mittens, my kitten. I'll bring Felix, my ferret. I'll bring Milton, my goldfish, said Maxine. It's a pet parade, not a wet parade. A goldfish can't march. He doesn't have feet. Milton is a very special fish, she replied. You'll see. At home, Maxine told Milton about the pet parade. He bubbled with excitement. Being a fish, he didn't get out much. It's okay if you don't have feet, Maxine said. Fins are perfectly fine. No, they're better than fine. They're fabulous. But Milton's spectacular tank was also spectacularly heavy. Maxine moved Milton into his old bowl. It was boring, but easier to carry. This is only temporary, she reassured him. Then they practiced marching. Splish, splash, splish. Maxine's enthusiasm was dampened along with her sneakers. We need to make this bowl better, said Maxine. She collected containers from all around the house. Maxine fitted and filled, fixed and fiddled, and failed. Maybe this isn't such a good idea. Maybe I should borrow the class hamster instead. Was Milton crying? Since he was a fish, it was hard to tell. As the big day approached, the pet parade was all anyone could talk about. I brushed Mittens so she's extra fluffy. I made Felix a new sparkly collar. Maxine thought about Milton with his shimmering scales and fluttery fins. He was beautiful and funny and smart and talented, and he was her friend. Sorry, hamster, I'm marching with Milton. After school, Maxine picked up her pencils and paper and planned her project. Oops. She had already discovered a million ways that would not work, which meant she was getting closer to finding a way that would. She repurposed a race car, upcycled an umbrella, and reprogrammed an old remote. All afternoon, she deconstructed and reconstructed, unscrewed and re-glued. She tinkered and hacked, bent parts forward and back. Maxine made a music playing, fin wiggling, wave sensing, wheel spinning, dance powered, fishmobile pet parade float. Fantastic, fantabulous, fincredible. Meet Milton, said Maxine, my very special fish. He's dancing and driving. Watch your feet coming through. Miss McMiller complimented Milton on being the best behaved pet of all. Was he blushing? Since he was a fish, it was hard to tell. She also complimented Maxine on finding a way to include Milton. If I can dream it, I can make it, Maxine said, and she did. And that is the end of Made by Maxine. And I wanted to share that with you because I like to talk about creativity in STEM and how important that is. And so what I do is called a STEM challenge. Now, I am not a big fan of giving a list of instructions and saying, do this and step 1 and step 2 and step 3, and then you're done. I don't think there's enough learning that goes on with something like that. So what I like to do is give a STEM challenge that's open-ended, that encourages problem solving and really gets us going with that growth mindset for young kids. And so what I like to do is called Maxine's Maker Challenge. Now I am going to, well, here, I'll explain what it is. Can you get the fish food into Milton's bowl without walking over and dropping it in? So let's see. And I believe I also put a copy of this STEM challenge in the handouts. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. If I can figure out where the cursor is. Okay, stop sharing. Okay, hi, I'm back. So here's what we use. And on that handout is a little picture of Milton the goldfish in his goldfish bowl. I have this taped to a drinking glass, but you could use a Tupperware, you could use a basket. And the whole point is to use whatever you have lying around. We don't want to have to go out and buy new things. And I did this, something similar to this during the pandemic, and there were, hundreds of families all at home. Nobody has the same things, right? Everyone's got different things, but we can make it work. And it's that creativity that helps to build those STEM muscles, right? So we have a little something like a little colorful pom-pom that we can use as fish food, or we could use a lifesaver. We could use a Cheerio. We could use a paper clip, a piece of crumpled up paper. And the goal is, so we're going to put Milton in his fish bowl here and on the desk or on a table. And the goal is that we want to get the fish food into the fish bowl without just walking over and putting it in, right? How are we going to do it? And we can put out some craft sticks, whatever we can find around the house, rubber bands, things in the recycling bin, oatmeal canisters. That's where we're gonna take our yogurt containers and our egg cartons. And whenever I'm getting ready to do one of these presentations live or in a school or in a library, I've always got bags full of recycled stuff in my kitchen. And it is so much fun to just empty it all out on the table and say, okay, let's get the fish food into the fish bowl and build something. You might have some tape or masking tape or a glue stick or whatever you have that's clean and safe, can be used to create something for this maker challenge. So let's see, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Okay, let's go back to playing. So that is the maker challenge. And you can cut out the picture of Milton and attach it to something and, give it a try. Any kind of recycled items that you have, tissue boxes, toilet paper and paper towel tubes, those are the best. The kids love taping those together and cutting them and all kinds of things. Any kind of craft supplies that you have work. And again, it's low tech. We don't need to spend money on expensive supplies and materials. We can use whatever we already have in the classroom, in the recycling bin. And that's where the creativity really comes from. And so these are just some pictures that I've taken from some events that I've done, and the kids just have so much fun with it, and they get so creative, and they're working together and they're making suggestions to one another about, I have to move along here. I'm sorry. And here's some other things that have been posted online, where they made a pet parade down the hall of their school. So I could do another hour on this, but you can design your own challenge with any other book. It doesn't have to be made by Maxine. It doesn't have to be my book. It could be any book that is a classroom favorite. Take a look at it and think about what are some of the problems that are in the story. And maybe you would like to try to invent something to solve the problem in the story. And this can be done as a class or in small groups. And it can also be a writing exercise if your students are at that age. Can you describe it? How would you design this? Is it something you can draw on paper? This can be something related to art, but it's the whole engineering design process. Maxine, you start by drawing something out and make a list of the materials that you're going to need. Can you make it with recycled materials? What if you are an outdoor school or a forest school? Can you make something using items that you found from nature? Can you make it using Legos? So there's so many different directions you can go with this, but to me, the importance of this maker challenge is that it's open-ended and you're giving the children a problem to solve, and they are using materials that are just, in the room or easily accessible. And we don't have to worry about all of the technology, because what we are concerned with are the skills that they're taking away from this. And so I think that is the end of, okay, really good timing. So I think that is the end. I'm going to stop sharing my screen once again. And we have about 10 minutes for questions. And I don't want to forget, when we're finished here, don't just click out. You can go back to the what is it, the main lobby or the main session, because that is where you will get more information about your continuing education credits and things like that. So don't just leave when we're finished. I think our assistant Heather will help us figure out how to get back into the main lobby. So I hope I said that correctly. All right, so let's see. Do we have some questions? Let's see. Oh, I see one here. So what is the definition of tinkering? That's a really good question. In my mind, the way I see it is it's not necessarily purposeful. It's maybe taking something apart to see what's inside. It's maybe trying to fix something. It's trying to improve something that you think, could be a little bit better than what it is. It's really, it's almost like play, but it's a little bit more purposeful in that you're working on something and you kind of have a bit of a goal, but it's an exploratory. I think it's just more exploring the materials and what you have, and the item that you're tinkering or playing around with. And I have a really good book. There's a really good book about that. So if you, yeah, I don't want to waste the time here, but there are some books that specifically focus on making and tinkering, and with your library card, you could very easily find those books. Okay, do we have any other questions? How can I get the list? Yeah, there are handouts that I put into the materials. And if you think of a question after this session that I was not able to answer or that you didn't get a chance to ask, you can go to my website and there's a contact form. So feel free to shoot me an email or, contact through there. And if I can answer your question for you, I will. What else? Any other questions? Let's see.
Ruth, there was one in the chat about where to get the books. I know there's a book list, but somebody was asking about where to get the books.
So the book lists that I provided, those are books that most likely you can find in the library or from a bookstore. You can, definitely you can find them at the library because there are books that have been around for a while. If you're looking at my books, those are also available anywhere books are sold. You can get them online, you can get them at the bookstore, you can get them at the library, just have to ask, but they're available wherever you would normally get your books. Let's see what else. I'm just kind of looking through here in the chat. Yeah, someone mentioned Reading Rockets has a lot of interesting books. They have a lot of really great book lists too. So I would, definitely recommend. Oh, someone says they love the Baby Loves books. Thank you. There's 2 new ones coming out in June. If you can see, Paleontology, which is all about fossils and dinosaurs. And this one is Automotive Engineering, which is all about cars and trucks and how things go. So, all right. What else? I don't know. Oh, because someone says their husband thinks they're a hoarder because I know I save everything too. I had so much stuff in my kitchen before some of these events, but why put something into, and it's a good lesson for kids too, right? Like, why put something into the recycling bill and have it go into a landfill when we can make something really cool out of it instead of buying toys and things? There's so many ways that you can repurpose things that you already have. And I see yes to library cards. Yes, cereal boxes, oatmeal containers. What else? Does anyone have any suggestions for other books that they think would make a good maker challenge? Has anyone tried something like this before? Oh, I like this one that Lynette says she was struggling with how to do this. And now, yeah, this is, my point here is I don't want anyone to be intimidated about introducing STEM activities into their classrooms or in their homes, because you don't have to have a ton of tech knowledge. You don't have to have a ton of tech materials and electronics and all these fancy things. It's the same skills that kids are learning. So this is a perfect jumping off point. And I think it's less intimidating, and it's fun. And I like coming to this from a literacy and a creativity point of view, because it's really all interrelated. And I think one of the most important things that I try to focus on with my books is sort of just pulling back that curtain and showing kids that everything around us can be explained by science or technology or math, and like just ask questions and just have that sense of wonder and curiosity, and trying to figure out how do things work and how can I solve a problem and how can I make things better. So that's kind of the message that I really try to put forth in the books that I write. Trying to think. Yeah. Anyone else? Someone said books for infants and toddlers. The Baby Love Science books are specifically written for babies and toddlers, and you can explore different levels with them. Trying to think, is there anything else? How can I get this book at the start of your real? Yeah, like I said, any of the books, you can get them either at your library or wherever you like to buy your books. They're available. All right. Is there anything else?
There's one about the concept of engineering for young children, engineering concept for young
I'm
children.
not sure I really understand that. What is it? I'm not sure what that question is. What about engineering? I'm not sure really I understand what the question is that you're asking. I'm sorry. Kids love building. That's an aspect of engineering and figuring out how things work and how houses can stand and how to is that kind of what you're getting? I'm not really sure what the question is there. Right, yeah, loose parts. Exactly. What about recycling objects? You can reuse them over and over in different projects. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh, okay, good. I'm glad to see I answered the question. And obviously for different ages and different stages, you're gonna, you know, dive deeper into the concepts, but just the basic things, building things, putting things on top and moving things. And yeah, I mean, it's appropriate for all ages, and you're just going to have to assess what your comfort level is and what the children are developmentally ready for at that particular age that they're at. So I think we are done, I believe. Did we have one? Yeah, I think we're done. So that's all that I think we're supposed to finish up. We have like a minute if anyone else has any other questions. I hope this was helpful. I really do. This is a very short period of time, and I know I was kind of motoring through this very quickly. But I hope that the general idea is something that you were able to take away from this, that you can start tomorrow. You can go to the library and check out a stack of books and pull some things out of your recycling bin, and you can start doing this tomorrow. So, and I hope that you do. And if you do, please send me pictures, or if you post on social media, make sure to tag me at Ruth Spiro everywhere, because I love to see the results and what kids create. So please do keep in touch. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to end this. Let's see. So Heather, I don't want to do this the wrong way. It just says end.
Yes, and when you click on that, it will say end for attendees.
Got it.
And it should be good.
And got it. Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you all very much. Thanks for coming tonight. Bye-bye.